Most of us are consumers. You come to class and you hear the story of the Buddha. You come to class, you hear the story of Hinduism. You come to class, you hear the story of Gilgamesh. And it's like going to pizza and grabbing yourself a cup of coffee. It's like someone talking about the life of Malcolm X, or some 18-year-old talking about Africa. And in some ways it's insulting, because you say Hinduism has been around for about 4,000 years. The life of the Buddha is really quite tragic. How could an 18-year-old understand Africa, the whole continent, and then make this overarching judgment about how Africans are, how Africa is, And I think the difficulty of talking about these ideas is that you can't treat them as consumers, where you just go to Pete's, grab yourself a mocha, drink half the cup, and thrash the rest of it away. You have children, yes? Imagine if your son came to you, and let's just say your son is married with a few kids. Imagine your son came to you and said, "Mom, I am really, really unhappy." And you ask him, "Why? You have a great job, you have a great wife, you have great children, great house. Why are you unhappy?" "I don't know. I feel as if I just don't belong." Don't belong where? Where I came from, you say, as a mother to your son, we didn't have anything. No running water, no supermarkets, no cars, no bicycles. You have everything here. You should be thankful. "I know, I am thankful. I'm just not happy. I'm miserable." And maybe your son just happens to be an extreme introvert. He's a feeler, where he wants to feel as if he's alive. And he looks at his marriage. He doesn't hate his wife. He doesn't dislike his wife. In fact, he loves his wife. He's no longer moved by the married life, and he doesn't know why. He looks at the kids. He loves his kids. He just can't connect to the kids anymore. And he's not coming to you as a consumer. In other words, he wants you to fix everything in his life. He wants to feel that he's alive. He doesn't want you to give him a pep talk, make him feel good for an hour or a day, so he can be put back to sleep and then wake up and look at his life and feel as if it's a nightmare. Your son is coming to you for real solutions to a big problem of existence. He is not happy. And you kind of just make some food for him. You say, "Son, go home, it's okay. It'll be fine." And then he knocks on your door again the following week. His problems are not going away. And then he comes to you in such a fashion that you're in bed, you turn to your husband, and you say, "John, are you awake?" He says, "Yeah, what do you want? Let me sleep. I work tomorrow at 4. "What are we going to do with Mikey?" "I'll figure things out." He's not figured out anything. He's talking about divorce. He's talking about walking away. What's going to happen? Have a chat with him. And so your husband, calls his work and says, "I can't come to work today." Goes to the son and says, "What the hell is wrong with you?" He says, "I can't do it. I can't live this life anymore." Well, I don't know what he sees. I don't know what he feels. I don't know what he understands. Some of us are miserable, but we're okay. We can tolerate the misery. We get high, we get drunk, we have sex with our companion, we go for a walk, we go for a run. As one of my former students, you go kickboxing for hours. You try to forget the tragedy of your existence. But some people, it doesn't matter what they do, it doesn't matter where they go, they just can't forget. It's a curse and a blessing. It's a curse because your physical life is no longer working for you. It's a blessing because for the first time you reflect, you feel, you think, and you feel alive, even though you're profoundly depressed and you feel isolated and lonely, do you see? And for the first time you go to the library and you begin to read books, self-help books, books about marriage, books about being a good parent to your kids, books about how to live life in a healthy way. And you realize most of these books are just bumper stickers. Exercise an act of compassion. Be kind. None of that stuff really works for you. And you go home, sure. You go home, you make food for your wife or your husband. You go home, you are nice to your kids. But you realize you're just faking it. You're pretending. You know, for those of you in this class who were once in a relationship and your companion left you, they didn't leave you. They didn't just one day look at you and say, I'm leaving you. No. At first, they had a feeling about it. Then the conflict began. Then they began to think about it seriously in private. Then little by little, they said things to you in a very subtle way. I think I'm just going to go to Chicago and do my schooling. Chicago? We were planning to get a one-bedroom. Yeah, but you know, school is very important to me. That's how they're telling you. And then eventually they look at you and say, I'm out. So what, for example, you read in the story of Malcolm X or Buddha or Mahatma Gandhi, these are gradual earthquakes or breaking of a dam. It doesn't happen all of a sudden. You know, no one can survive the sudden breakage of life. It happens gradually. And so when someone like your son comes to you and says, I need help, he's not looking for a bumper sticker. He's not looking for a pep talk. He wants you to go inside him. Because inside your son now lives a disease. He's asking very, very difficult questions of marriage, of parenthood, of just existence, being alive and its purpose. And he wants to yank this disease out, but you can't do it. He's a consumer of answer, but not your answers. Your answers are cheap. They're unseasoned. They're unreflective. Your answers contain a good amount of motherly emotions that are not good for him. He doesn't want them. We know it's funny when you're young and you're not in a relationship and you're certainly not yet a parent. You look at other parents with a good amount of envy. Then when you become a parent, you look at other parents, fathers and mothers, you say, man, they really look exhausted. And that's how it is. You know, I think when you lack the experience, you begin to fantasize things. But when you have the experience, it's a very, very different story. So, what do people do when they can't find answers in their friends, in their parents, in their physical life, or in books? Well, the Buddha, his name Siddhartha at the time, he did what most of us in this class do. If you have difficulties, you do therapy. You do drugs, you do alcohol. You do self-help books. You do New Age gurus on YouTube. And that's exactly what Siddhartha did. He went to the forest. Why? Because in forest, you have monks, you have people who have just given up on life because they've come to realize life really is no good. So they go to the forest. Why? Because city life gives you small questions. What's my grade? Your grade in this class is an A. Your grade in life is an F. That's a city question versus a forest question. Do I look good today? Yes. In the city life, you look great. In the forest life, you're really ugly. You're unseasoned, unrefined, unreflected. So, Siddhartha goes into the forest. What does he see? He sees 4, 5, 6, 9, 10 people sitting. They sit. Their eyes are closed and they're meditating. Some of you in this class once in a while wake up and you ask yourself, where should I go today? And then you realize you don't really want to go anywhere. Oakland is such a big city. It's like a zoo. And yet, you have no desire to go anywhere. You don't find anything in Oakland interesting. You know how devastating that is? You have to understand the wisdom of just sitting. First, you sit because there is no place to go. Second, you sit because And you sit, you don't allow your body to make any movements, unnecessary movements. You want this connection from your body. What is it that your body wants? Pleasure, entertainment, food, movement. When you sit in the forest, like the ones that were sitting some 3,000 years ago, they just sit. Why would a human being with a functioning, healthy body just sit on the ground and not do anything and have their eyes closed? Don't you like to watch, look at some trees? You don't want to look at the birds singing? You don't want to look at water? You don't want to feel the wind on your skin? No. The tragedy in Buddhism, not Buddhism, Buddhism today is kind of fake, but the tragedy in the life of the Buddha is the following. There is absolutely nothing in life that interests him. See, after class, most of you will probably go home, have some food, watch some TV, call some friends. If you happen to be Benjamin, your woman is waiting for you and he's really excited. All of us in this class have something waiting for us. 3,000 years ago, this man had nothing. Yes? He had nothing. He had nothing waiting for him. When you ask big questions, Lena, you're no longer a prince. When you ask the meaning of friendship, you no longer have any friends. When you ask whether or not life has meaning, it indicates your life currently does not have any meaning. There have been many wealthy people who came at a juncture in their life where they realized that their path, the guy who owned Baskin Robbins, there was a 34-year-old kid who had inherited this huge company. He came to realize he doesn't want to be a millionaire. He doesn't want to work with people. He doesn't want to be in the city. He just walked away. It's true. Initially, all of us are princes, prince and princesses. But when you begin to ask big questions, you're no longer a prince, nor are you a princess. You walk into a stage of poverty. Any of you in this class have ever divorced? Useless things. See, when you get married, you're a prince. You have dreams and hopes. You're rich because you make all sorts of narratives about your future life with this man or woman. About a house, car, job, children. You know what happens when you contemplate divorce? You're willing to give everything away. None of the history you made with your companion gives you any meaning anymore. They have zero value. Even children. You're willing to sacrifice their well-being because you no longer desire to be in the marriage. That's poverty. I don't know what our young friend here did to be ousted from his 4-year school.
Wasn't kicked out, left.
Whatever. There is the future and there is the present. The future, all of a sudden, had no meaning in it. He enjoyed the present. He basked in the present experience. He got caught and he left. The future gave him poverty. It's not a good business-minded thing to be or to do at the time, but that's besides the point. The point I'm trying to make is poverty comes to us in a variety of different ways. See, you and I will get into a marriage, we'll divorce, and then we'll remarry. For someone like the Buddha, there is no one to marry. No one on this planet has the power to give him enjoyment or pleasure or meaning or value. That's a devastating place to be. The Buddha doesn't want followers. The Buddha wants you to be like him. Okay. Now, you need to understand how it feels at the age of 19 being married to walk away from a marriage. To be a father of a son, to walk away from your son. To be a prince and walk away from power, money, authority, kingdom. See, none of us understand these things because we don't have any of them. Look at us. We live in Oakland. It's a dump. None of us in this class are rich. We don't have very much money. None of us in this class hold any kingdom. So when I tell you that this man walked away from his marriage because most of you are single, you wouldn't know what that means. And this is India. Nobody divorces. When I tell you that he walked away from his kid, you wouldn't be able to understand this. I'm not talking about 21st century where parents just walk away for no good reasons, most often. When I tell you he got depressed, Jesus, you get depressed because some guy left you. You got an F in a class. I'm talking about this kid 3,000 ago being depressed because no branch in life, no sector in life could give him any meaning, relevance, significance, or value. That is a devastating place to be in life. And when I tell you that he went into the forest, which is called the Great Renunciation, by the way, walking away from his riches, most of you are healthy. You go to places, you use your bodies. When he goes into the forest, what does he see? People sitting with their eyes closed. You don't understand. You are blessed. You have tongues. You have taste buds. You can taste things. Enjoy food. The monks in the forest fast. And they don't fast for a day or two. They starve their bodies. Do you know how difficult it is just to talk about those things? I haven't even gotten to the Four Noble Truths yet. Some people fast because of religious tradition. The Muslims do it. Catholics do it. Mormons do it. Jews do it. Hindus do it once in a while. But to come to realize that life means nothing and your body means nothing because your body simply is a trap. It walks into the city, looks at things, hears things, tastes things, touches things, feels things, and wants them. How do you silence your body? How do you silence your imagination? By starving them. For those of you who have some experience, go back to when you were breaking up with your companion. What do? You break up, you don't call them for 2 days, then you pick up the phone, you call them. Then you break up for 5 days, then you call them. So when I talk about going to the forest or fasting, it doesn't mean that it's cold turkey. He goes back and forth. All of us do. It's the human condition. You can't simply walk away from things completely. You and I are far too attached to our bodies and the history that our body creates with the physical world. Our parents, our companions, our experiences, our imaginations, our hopes, dreams, desires. Do you know, you have to come to a place where you come to realize that none of the things that you have done and none of the things that you think you are mean anything. And you just sit, because there is no place to go. There is a novel that was written by an Algerian fellow. His name is Albert Camus. It's called The Plague. And I'm going to kind of change the story a little bit. You know, Camus, it's this tiny town. And it's really, for the most part, like the pandemic that most of us experienced for the past 2 years. And what happens is all of a sudden, this disease hits this little town in France. And barricades are put up. No one can leave the town because they don't want the disease to be spread. In this town lives a journalist, lives a doctor, lives a priest. You know what journalists do. They're like us. You stand far away from life and you take notes on life. It turns into gossip, really. I watched so-and-so die. Let me write it so that people can read it. That's what journalists do. They never really participate in life. They're mostly observers. Then there is the doctor. And you guys all know what the function of a doctor is. You know, it's not like today where you go to Kaiser, you tell your doctor you have a migraine headache, and he Googles it. And then he tells you, well, your migraine could be caused by A, B, C, D. Yeah. A doctor is there to save lives, to heal people from diseases of sorts. That's what doctors do. They're a magician. And then there's a priest who has answers to all the big and difficult questions of life. Is there a God? Is there a sin? Do I have a soul? Is there an afterlife? So the plague hits. Little children are in the hospital dying, 6 months old. And you know, it's a Christian town. All things happen because God wills it. As the journalist is writing about the death of all these little kids, the doctor screams at him, "Come help me! What the hell are you taking notes for? I need help!" I'm not here to give you a journalistic perspective about Buddhism. That's not my job. You want to know Buddhism? Go read a goddamn book. So the doctor asked the journalist, "Come, give me a hand, get your hands dirty. Stop looking at life from far away." That's what he does. You know, it's funny when you have difficulties and you go to someone and they try to give you these bumper sticker remedies to your issues. I'm having a problem with my boyfriend. Well, honey, be patient. That's a journalistic perspective. I have no doubt that if you catch the person who's giving you these wise words, if you catch them at the right time, you realize they themselves need a good amount of help. Imagine now going to school for 20, 30 years to learn the art of the human body, the art of knowing diseases really, really well, where you go to the hospital every morning to save lives. And there comes a point as a doctor, every day you're confronted with death, and every person that dies reveals to you how incompetent you are as a doctor. So there is a scene where he is about to heal someone, but he can't, and he knows he can't. There comes a point in frustration, he throws his instruments down, and he just sits on his chair, and he watches people die. You wouldn't know. You guys are far too young to know how tragic it feels to be a journalist. To sit back and realize that all you have done for most of your life, you have just sat back and watched life go by, and you're just taking notes. And none of you in this class are doctors. You're not good at any craft. You're far too scattered. You like too many things. You're unfocused. You're not good at anything. So you haven't really sacrificed anything for anything. You have no idea how it feels to be a doctor and all of a sudden feel incompetent, that you're no good at what you do. You vow to protect people from diseases, from death, but you can't do much. And you feel worthless. And one day, the doctor goes to the church, I suppose for some solace and comfort. And there is the priest standing on the stage telling people that the plague is there, like the pandemic, because God wills it. And one day the doctor goes to the priest's house, grabs him by the throat or the neck, forces him to go to the hospital, and then he pushes his head down so that he could look at the face of 6-month-old babies. And then he asks him, the doctor asks the priest, tell me, what sin has the 6-month-old child commit? To be in pain, to be screaming, to be in so much misery. And the priest, of course, says something nonsensical. That night, the priest goes into the cemetery where there is a hole. He lays there. In the morning, the bulldozer comes and dirt covers the hole. The priest commits suicide. There are no answers, at least we know of life being a disease. None of you in this class have committed any transgressions, any crimes. And you need to ask yourself, why is it that whatever that you touch gets old? That after a while you don't feel as happy, as excited, as inspired? Why is it that after a while you become so indifferent to the thing that once gave you joy? And after the tragedy, it will never stop. The misery will continue. And remember, the difference between us and the Buddha is really quite simple. See, when something pains us, we try to look for a quick fix. For someone like Siddhartha 3,000 years ago, he wanted an overhaul. He wanted to fix the entire thing. He wanted to understand.